And that's one of the things that is so important, is that when you're in a committed relationship and when you're trying to build something with somebody, even if it's not working well, you will learn so damn much about yourself. You will learn so damn much about how you work and how people work, that to me, it's worth it, even if it doesn't work out.
If you're honest and you pay attention, if you can be honest with yourself.
100%, 100%. But that's what, like, as men, that's what we're supposed to be doing, right? Is figuring out how to make things work. And that means that every failure, everything that goes wrong, we got to learn the lessons from it. Because in every failure, there is a lesson, there's knowledge, there's experience there. And if you extract that value, everything becomes easier and easier.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You're learning real life lessons in real time, the things that stick, the things that matter, to fundamentally change you as a person.
Yep.
For the better. So you go through that, the divorce, 2019, you find the red pill, you come into the men's help space, start getting really involved, you're having questions.
Yep.
So besides finding the content, like what kind of work did it take for you to overcome these things that you carried with you into relationships and adulthood from childhood? And where did some of that stuff stem from?
So early 2021, beginning of 2021, I decided that I was going on a self-improvement, self-help jihad. Like, I was fucking done. Screwing out with this. I was done being broken. I was done not understanding what was going on with me. I was done. So it's time to go to war. And so between 2021 and the end of 2023, I did pretty much everything you could do to try and figure out what was wrong with me. Now, I had done therapy for decades. I did coaching stuff. I was in different men's groups. I did somatic work, energetic work. I did freaking spiritual retreats. I did psychedelics. I did breath work. I did hypnosis. I did everything. I spent over $120,000 over the course of those 2 years sorting myself out. Right.
Which is good, by the way. I'm proud of you for doing that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it took that much, because what I was realizing along the way was that the stuff that I was working wasn't actually, the stuff that I was doing wasn't actually working the way it should. I do this work on beliefs, and they change these surface level beliefs, but the deep stuff wouldn't be changed. I go on these psychedelic journeys and I get all this amazing insight, and then my behavior wouldn't actually change. And so through the course of all that, there were several revelations I had along the way that were just, I would have never thought that I would have had to figure that out on my own. Right. I remember the first time that happened to me, I was talking with one of the guys working on some beliefs, and I realized, I was throwing myself under the bus all the time, light myself on fire to keep people warm. Right. And I was realizing how much that hurt to do. And I realized, I'm throwing myself under the bus and it hurts. And I'm throwing away garbage. Doesn't hurt to throw away garbage because it has no value. So I have to be throwing away something that has value if this hurts, which means that I have to have value as a person. Wow. It's the first time in my life I had actually considered the idea of me having value as a person. Up until then, I didn't have any value. There was nothing I was going to get for myself. But at that moment, it's oh crap, I have value. No idea how much. That's a completely different story.
Yeah, how much and what it is, right?
How much and what it is. But it's at least I get to this point where I have value, right? And then a couple months later, I go to this retreat, do a couple of days worth of psychedelics, and which was amazing, cracked open all kinds of things for me. A very spiritual experience, a very transformative experience in that way. But I'm sitting there in the recliner on the Airbnb, hanging out, and I was like, man, I love my life. I'm so excited for all these things I get to do. I'm so excited for who I get to become and how I'm going to get all these things that I've wanted for so long. And then it hit me. It's like a ton of bricks. It's like, that's the first time you're ever feeling that. That was the first time I ever felt like life was actually worth living. And that was possible to get what I wanted in life. 45 years old. Got a tattoo on my chest. I am alive. And the date is July 29th, 2021, because that's the first fucking day in my life that I actually believed that life was worth living and I could get what I wanted. I broke. Dude, I think I was for 30 damn minutes because it hit that freaking hard. So 6-9 months later, I'm still trying to get the entrepreneur thing running and everything else. And I'm doing some more hypnosis work with a lady. And I'm realizing that I had let go of this idea of I have to sacrifice myself to save the world. That's my reason for living. But I didn't have a new one yet. I didn't have a new reason for living yet. And I'm sitting there grasping around and trying to figure out what measuring stick I use to figure out how much value I have. And then it hit me. I'm like, wait a second. I'm trying to justify my existence again.
I'm glad you said that, because I tell these guys all the time that it's important that you find the source, find what it is, discard it, redirect it, but you got to find something to put in its place.
Right.
You will organically default back to that.
Here's the tricky thing, because that's not actually that's not a good thing, because you're just replacing one external mechanism of motivation for another external motivation. Because the thing that I realized is like, wait a second, I want to be alive.
Yeah.
I actually want to be alive for the first time in my life. I don't have to justify it anymore. I don't have to justify my existence anymore. I actually want to live. And so I don't have to justify it. I don't have to have a reason. I don't have to have a measuring stick. I don't have to have any of that.
Well, the realization, that's
it. And realizing that broke my freaking brain so hard, I felt like I was on mushrooms for 3 days.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Because I'd spent my entire freaking life justifying why I should be alive, why I should be allowed to continue to live. And it hit me. It's like, wait a second, I don't actually have to do that because I want to be here.
That's deep.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the hits just keep on coming. And I've realized so many different things about how the mind works and why we are the way we are along the way, because of working with all kinds of different clients. I had all kinds of issues realizing this stuff in myself. And I'll tell you, one of the biggest realizations I had is that we hold beliefs at different levels of resolution. Okay. So on if you think about your mind as having like an instinctive mind, and then an emotional mind, and then a rational mind, and then you've got consciousness on top. Okay. That's kind of how the brain developed over
Say that again.
You have an instinctive mind, right? And that part of your mind is there to keep you breathing. Right.
That's you going from deepest to surface.
Deepest to surface, right? The next one is your emotional mind. And your emotional mind is concerned with how you interact with other people and kind of like your place in the world. That's all emotional. It's not rational. Your rational mind is concerned with objective truth, how things really work, the outside world, the external world, right? Whereas your emotional mind is your subjective internal world. Your irrational mind is worried about the external world, the verifiable stuff, the objective truth, right? And you got consciousness sitting on top of all that. And he's kind of like the CEO, kind of picking that long-term direction. He's concerned about like what we should do, what we want to do, those kinds of questions, okay? But what that means is you actually have different beliefs of different complexity operating at each of those different levels of mind. And when we talk about beliefs, most of the time we're talking about it from a rational perspective of like, okay, I'm not good enough because I don't have six-pack abs, right? Or I'm not lovable because like I'm too fat, or I'm only 5'8" and I'm a manlet and I'll never get laid, right? Or whatever that happens to be, right? Those are very specific, very rational constructs. And so that's a belief in the rational mind. But what I was realizing is I was doing all this work to solve all these rational mind beliefs, but it wasn't actually changing how I was instinctively responding to stuff. It wasn't changing how I felt about things.
You weren't going deep enough.
Weren't going deep enough, exactly. Because the belief on the level of the unconscious mind is something like, I'm not good enough. Very simple. There's something wrong with me. Very simple. I don't deserve because there's something wrong with me, and I'm not good enough because there's something wrong with me. Right? And so I'm not good enough is going to manifest as about 100 different beliefs and different variations of that on the rational mind. And so I was playing whack-a-mole, trying to fix all those things. But once you get down to the emotional mind, and especially how the emotional mind and the instinctive mind connect, and start changing beliefs on that level, all this other stuff up here goes away. So that's what I started doing for my clients. That's what I started doing for myself, is get down to the level of what is the emotional construct rather than just the rational mind construct.
It would be like I would compare being in construction, putting a coat of paint over rotten wood. Instead of digging to the rot, digging it all out, clearing it out, and building it back up.
Building a new foundation, building an entirely new foundation, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've got that core belief of there's something wrong with me, and you change it to there's nothing wrong with me, that changes so much, right? Because all of a sudden you're not the problem anymore.
And all the things attached to that belief just gone.
Yes.
It doesn't exist anymore.
You go from I'm not good enough to I am good enough. All of a sudden, guess what? You don't have to do all that stuff to try and prove shit to yourself anymore. So the biggest things are there's something wrong with me and I'm not good enough. And because I'm not good enough, I don't deserve. But there's another belief that actually starts that whole chain, and that is emotions are pain. Because if, think about it, you burn your hand on the stove, your hand starts to hurt. What's happening? Well, you didn't yank your hand off the stove because it was burnt, because it's hurting. You yanked your hand off the stove so you could get burned, but you're too slow. So now you got another problem. Your hand's burned. And your body has to alert you to that fact so you can do something about it. So what did it do? It makes your hand hurt. So that you'll look at your hand, realize it's burned, and fix it.
Make you aware.
Make you aware that there's a problem you need to fix, right? And so we have physical pain comes from a physical wound that's caused by physical trauma. Makes total sense. And the narrative everybody's running by is emotional pain comes from an emotional wound that's caused by an emotional trauma. But the thing is, the emotions you feel, that physiological reaction you get when you feel sad, when you feel grief, when you feel anger, when you feel panic, is not pain. That's your body preparing to take action of some kind. It's getting ready to do something. It's not asking you to fix it. It's asking you to do something about what's happening in the world out there. But if you're that's your body getting ready to take action of some kind. Right? If you get angry, you're getting ready to fight. If you get scared, you're getting ready to run. If you get anxious, what are you doing? You're getting ready to hide. All those are survival strategies. Right?
Right. Yeah.
So that intense sensation you feel isn't pain. It's your body preparing to take action to do something about something that's in the environment around you. But if you're interpreting that sensation as pain, where do you look for the problem? You look in here, because that's where you're feeling it.
Well, and the typical knee-jerk reaction is to deny it and run from it.
Deny it, run from it. Yeah. Yeah. Which means not only are you not dealing with the thing in the world around you, you're telling your mind you can't help but solve the problems that it's trying to show you. And since these are usually like survival level issues it's trying to solve, what does it do? It fucking yells at you harder. Yells louder. You're not listening, so it yells louder. Makes it more intense. And it doesn't shut up until it's pushed you too far.
And that shows up in loss of jobs, unfulfilling, broken relationship after broken relationship.
Oh man, all kinds of stuff. All the ways we screw ourselves up. All the ways we have to self-medicate to make that stuff go away. Yeah, absolutely. Just because we think emotions are pain. So we're looking in the wrong place for the problem. The problem's out there. It's not in here. We need to stop trying to fix ourselves. We need to start figuring out how to navigate the world better. But until you get over that idea that emotions are pain, you're always going to be looking inside yourself for the problem.